Greetings and salutations, Scribblers. I'm Katie, the founder of the Scribblers Den, where writing craft meets writing community. Thank you so much for joining us. Today's video is about that critic that's lurking inside all of us that wants us to hate what we write and is constantly whispering that we're not good enough or that no one will ever want to read what we write. We all have one. And as writers, we need to learn how to silence it so that our creative ideas can flow from our brains onto the page. So today, I thought we'd look at how that inner critic functions, how it interferes with our creative process, and then a few ways that you can fight back. So let's just start with, where does our inner critic come from? To fully answer that question, you're going to need to book some therapy sessions and to do a deep dive into who you are, how you were raised, and how society and culture has shaped you into the person that you are. I don't have that expertise, but we can look at the broad structures that are at play here, right? The way that our minds process information and how we react are part genetics and part how we were raised and what our experiences have been in the past. So our inner critic is actually just a product of us taking us in all that information and data on how well or how poorly things have worked out for us in the past. And then saying, here's what we think you should do. Here's the recommendations, right? So our inner critic isn't really trying to bring us down. It's actually trying to protect us, right? It's trying to be like, oh, are you sure you want to do that? That might not end well. Like, let's pull back and let's be safe here, right? It's offering that commentary that's based on past experiences, on what's seen happen to other people, either in similar situations or to you personally, right? And it wants us to protect us from experiencing that same thing. I like to think of our inner critic a little bit like Nemo's dad in Finding Nemo, right? Marlin, he loves Nemo, right? Just wants to protect him, but he's being so overprotective that he stops Nemo from living his life and realizing his potential. And in a world where everyone's opinion is front and center on the internet, our inner critic is often on high alert. There are posts about how people hate specific tropes or think anyone who does XYZ in their stories isn't a real writer. Not to mention reviews for different books on sites like Goodreads that can absolutely eviscerate a book or an author. So our brain takes all of this in and starts making decisions to try and prevent us from experiencing that criticism in regards to our work. Again, it's really just trying to protect us. Our inner critic can be loud and nagging. It can be quiet and absolutely gut you with its vitriol and everything in between. So sometimes maybe like you're staring at that blank page and it tells you all the things that you shouldn't write instead of the things that you should. Or maybe it starts to remind you of the 150 rejections you got from agents on your last manuscript. Or maybe it's that one review you got on your story that called your writing horrible and that you're a hack, right? Or it might even try convincing you that no matter what, you will never be as good as that big name best-selling author. So why should you even bother trying, right? No matter what, all of that bubbles up to the surface when we write. And it stops us from tapping into the entirety of our creativity. It stops us from pushing ourselves to experiment, stops us from trying new things, from submitting to that agent or publisher or workshop because it's too focused on how we might not be enough to make it when we should be focused on how amazing we are and all the untapped potential that we have inside of us, right? This can turn into us avoiding writing, deciding that deep cleaning our kitchen or reorganizing every closet in the house is a better choice to make than writing. Because it's safer, right? It doesn't open us up to that criticism of our art and our imaginations. With just a few simple thoughts, our inner critic can completely shut down our creative process. And the more our inner critic speaks up and we don't challenge it, the easier it becomes to believe those inaccuracies. So just remember, your inner critic is Marlin and it thinks it's protecting you, but really it's stifling your creativity and stopping you from growing and achieving. So how do we push back and take control from that inner critic? So how do we push back and take control of our inner critic? One way that might work for you is to give it a name and externalize it. So I've been comparing our inner critic to Marlin in this video. So what if you start imagining Marlin as the one telling you not to write? Small orange clownfish is now just like above your shoulder and saying, you can't do it. You shouldn't write. Don't do that. Why are you listening to an orange clownfish, right? Like, why? What is going on there? And when you start thinking about it that way, it starts to really externalize it and allows you to break that cycle because it pulls you out of that negativity spiral and highlights just the absurdity of listening to such bad advice. So that might work for you. Another way to push back is to come up with a few responses or affirmations to say to yourself when that inner critic rears its head. Daily affirmations might sound silly, but they're powerful. And if you commit to them, you're going to see huge results. You might start by adding some Post-it notes on your writing desk that you can look at and read whenever your inner critic starts yapping. Speak them out loud makes them even more powerful because you get to be louder than your inner critic. Get your affirmations in order and say them a lot. This isn't an instant fix, but over the course of a few weeks and then months, you're probably going to see a big difference in how your inner critic is getting quieter and smaller, and you're feeling more confident about your writing and what you want to do. When I started doing affirmations, it took me almost a year to really see some measurable progress. I had some very, very loud inner critics, and not just in my writing life, but I've mostly conquered them. And when they do try to sneak back in now, my brain is very quick to fire back and silence them. So it's taken some work to get there. And even now, having done that work, they still pop up every now and then, but I can deal with them. My third tip is to create something that reminds you of all the wins that you've had as a writer and to just celebrate all of them. So this might be like a cork board where you pin up all your successes, or maybe you create a scrapbook or a diary filled with all the great things. I meant to grab this before and I didn't, but here it is. This is my scrapbook that I created. You can see it's got all sorts of stuff in it that I've put in, but this is my scrapbook of writing wins. And I put so many things in here because when I was really doubting myself, I would go back and I would just look through this, pull it out, and really remember that I had it under control and writing was worth focusing on. So you might want to just make a little book. Finally, the last tip that I have for you is to build up your writing community. And I feel like I talk about this a lot, but it's such an integral part of the writing process. No matter what stage you're at or what your goals are, finding that community and embracing it is going to do such wonderful things for you, right? It can take a bit, but once you have that solid support, you can share what your inner critic is whispering to you, and you had better believe that your writing community is going to remind you of all the reasons why that critic is wrong. Being able to voice your frustrations and doubts is such a valuable thing. Bottling them up and ignoring them won't solve the issue, but acknowledging them and having people to help remind you of how awesome you are is super powerful. So remember, your inner critic is your voice. That is you talking to yourself. And while it can be difficult, you've got to find a way to change the narrative and just yeet that negativity into the sun so that you can embrace all the awesome things that you are capable of. Feelings and emotions are part of being human, and those negative emotions need acknowledgement as much as the positive ones. Just don't let yourself wallow in them. Remember, tell Marlon to stop doubting you, repeat your affirmations, and embrace your community. All right, Scribblers. So I hope that this video has helped you to recognize that your inner critic is there trying to help you, and how to have some strategies to get them to be a little bit quieter and help you in different ways, right? Because telling you not to do things isn't super helpful. We want better solutions than that. So you're really challenging your inner critic to come up with something better to encourage you and to help you move forward. If you are looking for personalized coaching and challenging your inner critic regarding writing, please check out the coaching options available at the Scribblers Den using the link down in the description. Have a fantastic rest of your day, and we'll see you next week. Happy writing, Scribblers.